I know a lot of people say, oh, you should just focus on one thing, and that's when you succeed. To a certain extent, that's true. You do need to focus on things to get to
some baseline level of
competence,
right?
Exactly. But beyond that, I think to succeed, you need to do multiple things. If you can't do multiple things, in the end, you can't succeed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you have to have some baseline like core competencies, right? If you're just like I hate generalists who say they're a generalist when they just suck at everything. Right?
Yeah.
Like I think that's like the
that's
point.
Not
like
an option.
If you're just actually just bad at everything, that's not generalist. You're just bad at everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a generalist is like you have to be good at like multiple things. And I think
That's
specialists like you got to be really, really deep.
Deep in one thing. Yeah. And I think on some level there's space for both, right? I'm not saying it's a personality fit for everyone to be a generalist and be good at multiple things and do this. But I think if you're a CEO, especially, I think being a generalist is very, very important.
Critical.
Critical. Yeah.
I'm curious. I feel like you talk a lot about user testing with Whale, and it seems to be. I think a lot of companies will say they care about users, but I think you guys seem to be one of the rare companies that actually practices what is preached. What's the most interesting stuff you've learned from that process?
Definitely. So I'm definitely a people person.
Right.
I believe in building companies that have faces attached to them and not like people attached to them. Right. And that's very important as a user. For me personally, if I know these people work on something and they care about me as a user, I'm more likely to use that product. And having a dialogue with them, with your users, has always been important. So for example, even with our previous companies, right, like with Artists Union, I added some of these producer kids around the world as my personal Facebook friends. And I would talk to them on Facebook, and that was really helpful to understand their mentality. Because at the end of the day, you're not building software just for the sake of it. You're building that software for people, and you need to understand the people first to build the right things for them.
I think it's so obvious to like us that like you gotta just like actually be of the people.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe like 5 years ago, or I think you talked to computer science students at Stanford. A lot of people are still very shy or just very tentative about it. It's just like this weird flip where like you realize, I don't know when I realized that, but it's you got to be of the people for actually people to like want to work use your stuff or work with you.
Exactly. And I believe the best ideas are always going to come from them. And I try to set that precedent even with our kind of engineering, the two engineers that we should. And James has been really awesome, and Vic, and all of our guys are like really open to taking questions on. Well, we all of us do user studies, not just me, so that everybody understands the pain points. And customer service as well, a little bit. Everybody does a little bit of it, so that they know what's coming in and what are the issues, right? I think that's really important when you're building a tech company to, like we said, be of the people, understand the people who use. So anyway, getting back to the second part of your question about what did you learn? I learned so much from our users in the last month. I'm realizing some of them have never done video, so there's kind of like this first time experience where you either see yourself on video or hear yourself, and
you
kind
freak
of
out.
feels a little weird.
So
we need to kind of address that. I've talked to a lot of female members of the influencer community, and they're like, well, there's things you got to be ready to do a whale video, because it's or a whale spout, as we're calling it. Because you have to, it's a permanent thing, right? So what are we going to do about this, right? How do we make it more acceptable to be more casual, and also, but at the same time, how do we make people look the way they want to look, right? So that's like building creator tools,
filter stuff.
Exactly. Stuff like that. And then on the user side, I'm realizing a lot of our users are very engaged on Twitter. They were early Quora users. They love edutainment. So they were reading Quora as like that's their entertainment, right?
Right.
Like they'll, instead of just like,
I remember
going
used to doing that a little bit. Just browse.
Just browse, right? Like just to learn something new. But it felt more and more like a too big of a commitment to them, and they dropped off, and they were kind of searching for something to fill that gap, and which they didn't find anywhere else, and now they found well, and they're super excited about it.
Right.
Yeah. So we need to continue to. So discovery is clearly still becoming a problem pretty fast, because the community is growing, and there's all different types of content being created, and we want to figure out how to surface the most interesting things. So we already experimented with the feed multiple times in the month.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned, like, I think when you onboard, like, there's topics you want to sign up for, and I remember, I think, watching one of James's, I think the CTO's answers, like, that's fake.
That's totally fake. Yeah, we collected a lot of data around what topics.
Yeah, but that'd be interesting to see that actually surface up relevant, featured questions.
Right, exactly. So featured questions, we're thinking about doing stories. So we want to curate interesting stories around topics or events, and then have that as a kind of a story where you play like 5 videos or whatever, and from 5 different kind of perspectives.
Right. So like basically grouping things like relevant to the time and
and
day,
then
whatever.
packaging it up so that you can have a little bit of a fresh and a lean back experience. And it discovery. I think a lot of people have asked for tags, but what I think, so that's part of another I guess product management / user research thing, right? Like you get a lot of feedback.
Right. I was going to ask the second part. Like, how do you decide, like, what is the one true north, right? As CEO, you have to collate everyone wants everything, and you're just like, you can't do everything. That's doing nothing. So how do you decide? How do you be the decider?
I think how I'm doing it right now is looking at what are the 3 core things about our platform that people like, right? And what are the 3 core actions that we want people to do? Watch videos, ask questions, answer questions. So if it's not part of those 3 things, we probably shouldn't be doing it, right? And then I have other ideas around, like, creator safety is very important, and just like the platform being a positive experience, both for people who create the content and people ask the questions and people watching, right? So I don't want things like, so initially we had a very long discussion about like comments and further reactions. And one of I feel pretty strongly that we shouldn't have comments.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. Because it opens up a whole new kind of Pandora's box of issues.
Yeah, people flaming people. Like, oh, that was a stupid answer. Or you're wrong.
Exactly. Okay. Right. People say a lot of, and this is from music again, but like a lot of artists say like, oh, I don't really care about all the negative comments I get. And, I've done music videos, I've gotten millions of views. And the one that's false, right? They just say that to put on a brave face. Right. But as anyone, it's very vulnerable to be on video and give answers, right? Right. And if those people get negative comments, it's going to be tough for them to keep going and create content. So I think we need to balance those things. So that's one thing. But again, I try to think of things as like, here are the core things that we want people to do, and this is the main value add of the platform. So let's just get all the feedback, but work on the things, improving that core experience first.
Yeah, I think one thing that I think really has resonated with me over the years is that if you just get like a few core things really, really right, like you get so much push from like an ecosystem that like you almost can't mess up. You just gotta like hold on and not mess it up. Right. Exactly. So I think it's like finding those like core, like you could say like Twitter or like Snapchat. They just got a few core things right. Exactly. And just like didn't matter any of the. Like people were making fun of the crappy UI. It's like didn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. That's an interesting thing I've learned. I always actually thought, as a creative, I thought positioning, branding and like all of this marketing stuff, that was kind of the experience that I brought before I did startups. But then Justin showed me this whole other way of doing things where it's like talk to users, build a core product. The great example he always gives about design, which we go back and forth, is like WhatsApp. People use billions.
It's basic as hell, right?
Yeah, right. but people use it, right? So
a billion plus people, right?
And one of our engineers, he's so talented. Vic is also like a designer. James has a design eye. Leo is incredible, and he's designed everything for the app. And so that there's this kind of balance between like getting design really crisp and nice, but also, Justin's thing is, hey, this stuff is great, but like we gotta nail the core,
right?
Like product first, right? So there's like a good balance.
Yeah. I think it's like, would you rather have something that converts but looks like a piece of crap, or something that's like really, really optimized and it's like okay, right? Like you could definitely polish up a crappy looking thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you would assume that it would just grow even 10x faster.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Do you do anything biohackery? Obviously, I'm curious. Like anything you do that to optimize your regimen. I'm curious if for our listeners,
I don't know if this was actually a question for you. I don't know if these things were good for me to do or bad, but so before when I was on Wall Street, I was working at Lehman Brothers as in the mortgage desk of all things for 05 to 07. So very stressful, crazy environment.
You almost saw the whole thing blow up.
Exactly. I saw the start of the blow up, but fortunate enough to get out in time. It was very stressful, not a very healthy kind of eating environment. But then I was getting married and I needed to lose weight. So I talked to one of the guys on the desk and he was like, this is what you need to do. You need to eat a yogurt every day and nothing else for breakfast.
Okay.
Right. And then you got to eat lunch, but light, basically like a sandwich or something. And then he was like, you got to skip dinner. No dinner ever.
Interesting.
Right? So I did that for 6 months, lost a ton of weight.
Right.
But then I didn't really, have fitness, right? Like I was just like lean.
Right.
Does that work at all? Like is skipping dinner a good thing? What are your thoughts on that? Because I know you fast a lot.
Yes. That's actually a good question. So I think needs to be a better distinction between caloric restriction versus fasting. So calorie restriction is like eating. So most of us eat 2,000 to 300 calories a day. Yeah. So calorie restriction you'd be eating 1,000 or 1,500 calories a day. So like every day. So there's interesting data that does increase longevity, but the downside is that it basically slows your metabolism. So often people will feel cold. People will start losing muscle mass, which is not great.
Yeah.
The interesting thing with intermittent fasting is that you basically like go 0 calorie and then you feast.
Go back to
So you should actually, if you're intermittent fasting properly, get your full caloric intake of the week in aggregate, but you spike it. So you get like really interesting insulin response curves where you have like very, very low insulin and then like you have a normal insulin response. So that increases your insulin sensitivity. And it's like really interesting data where it increases human growth hormones. It actually retains lean muscle mass. Interesting things around sort of like recovery time. So I think what I've been testing out recently is basically doing all my workouts fasted. So you take advantage of all the HGH elevation while you're working out. So you get like, you basically stack up. If you're doing heavy lifts, for example, you also generate HGH. So you just build up a lot more muscle mass and you recover faster. And it seems to be pretty reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think obviously if you're eating less calories than normal, you will lose weight.
That's the second thing that I've done. So for the last year, I've been pretty much eating healthy for a while, for 2 to 3 years, but I was still eating carbs. But I stopped. And this is very hard to do as somebody from Sri Lanka or like South Asian heritage, right? Like
everyone eats carbs in the culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Bread to like noodles.
Very heavy carb diet. I stopped. Pretty much stopped eating carbs and also sugar.
How long ago?
Now about a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been able to keep it up for a year.
Yeah, that's impressive. And it just so like obviously like no soda, like no bread, no ramen noodles.
Nope. Yeah, exactly.
And so you're eating just protein and fat.
Pretty much. Okay. Yeah, protein and fat for about a year.
And like vegetables.
Yeah, a lot of vegetables. Go to Whole Foods every day for lunch and get a bunch of kale and chicken. And just like I've just gotten used to eating that way. Yeah. but I don't know what the long-term effects of that change would be. Right. So, and I also work out. So like P90X, or I just do a quick high intensity workout, Insanity P90X, something for 30 minutes most days. So that's kind of the extent of biohacking.
Do you do that in the morning, or
I do it in the morning, because if I stay till evening, it just won't happen.
That's what I realized. You never can get it done because there's a birthday party, there's a meeting, stuff, and then you can't do it.
Yeah, you can't do it. Yeah. And I'm pretty careful about sugar intake as well. Like, I don't take sugar with my coffee or like other things, but I treat myself some days, treat yourself days. But I don't really have a cheat day. This is something I talked about with Vic yesterday. And he mentioned doing something similar to what you were doing, like a little bit of fasting, and then he would have a cheat day with like 4,000 calories or something. And he said it worked better for him. Right. So do you think I should just like continue to do my, kind of strict diet 7 days a week, don't really change at all, or maybe experiment a little bit with I think
the nice thing with intermittent fasting is that you can focus your discipline on short bursts, right? I think it's very impressive that you can just like not, do have any leaks in your lifestyle, right? Like, I don't know, like what if someone's giving you like, a cocktail with like Red Bull in there? You're not going to drink it. You're just that strict.
Pretty strict about that.
Yeah, it's impressive, like, right?
No, I don't want soda or Red Bull. Like, this actually happened.
Yeah, no,
somebody got me I said this whiskey on the rocks last week,
and they gave you whiskey and Coke or something. Yes, and you're like,
no. Yeah, I just said no.
Yeah, so I think that's very hard. I think for like 99% of people to do, they'd be like,
okay, yeah, this is what's available.
Right. Yeah. So my recommendation is typically, consistency is the most important, right? I think when people get really excited about like trying a new thing, they are really hardcore about it for like 2 weeks, and you're like, I can't do it. Yeah. So if you can just like stick to your regimen super well, I think like if you don't need any like cheat days, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Like, I don't remember the last time I had a burger or a pizza, and I don't miss it. That's
I think people don't realize that. And you just shift your diet.
Yeah. You just shift your diet, and people like, I go to this place around the corner from our office with the team, and they all get the grilled cheese and the burger and everything, and I just, I'm okay with getting my salad, and that's what I want to eat. Right. But I also thought, I want to put on more muscle, right? Because I think that's better in the long term, right? And I switched from doing just cardio to doing more weights, right? So I do 3 days of weights, and then the other days cardio, and then I kind of have like a yoga or some kind of chiller day, right? But
it's a good balance. Yeah. I think one way that I've come to think about diet and exercise is that they're really orthogonal. Like, you need to exercise to gain muscle. You can't like eat protein shakes to get buff. Yeah. You actually have to like work out those muscles. So like, if you want to gain more muscle mass, have to do heavy lifts, right? All those basics, and then obviously consume. But I think like oftentimes like the Western diet is overweight on protein anyways, right? If you think about like your pictures of like prehistoric humans, right? They're like super jacked, super fit, because they're like always working out, and like they're not like feasting on like protein shakes, right? Because like your body's pretty efficient on maintaining lean muscle mass, and then when it has protein and it's like, in recovery mode, it pulls the protein in.
And then eating carbs is what are your thoughts on that? So what's your diet? Like, are you just doing balanced diet, or are you also doing?
Yeah, so typically I'll do a 36-hour fast. I'm experimenting with longer fasts now. So I just recently did like a 66-hour fast. Wow. Right before Thanksgiving.
Just water?
Yeah, just water.
Wow, that's pretty long.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it gets easier after day 2 or 3, because your body goes into ketosis. You start eating your own body fat essentially. Yeah. I mean, there's literally people that have, there's like that one case study. There's like a super obese guy that was able to just eat multivitamins and drink water for 400 days and just like lost like 200 pounds of fat. Wow. His body was just breaking down his own fat. I mean, fat is really just our body's energy store, like it's our body's refrigerator, really. Anyways, so I'll typically do a fast, and then I'll eat pretty keto, so very little carbs as I break into it. But then just my personal lifestyle, if I get to Thursday or Friday and, people want to get sushi or something, it's hard, I'll partake.
Yeah.
So I think that's been more sustainable for me, where I can just be really, really disciplined, break into my first meals ketogenically, high fat, medium protein, low carbs. And it sort of extends out the benefits of going to ketosis while I'm fasting.
Yeah.
And then still be able to, have fun on weekends.
So when do you do your fasts typically?
Monday night to Wednesday morning. So I'm actually, I'll be fasting today. Today's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah.
And then does it impact your work at all, or initially did it do that?
The first couple of weeks sucked because your body's just used to having constant
like energy
glucose.
burst.
I mean, all our bodies are just glucose adapted, right? Like you almost trained our bodies to have constant snacks every like 3 hours.
Right.
And you think about it from a food industry perspective, the only way they can increase their market size is to tell people to eat more calories. Right. Like if you look at like
that's true.
You think about it, like literally it's like the number of people times calories eaten is like a total addressable market for food companies.
Yeah.
And if you just look at the history of food, like Romans had one big meal a day. Asian culture had a lot of times had 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
And it's really like recently there's like a factory system for consumption, right? Like you have like we're all factory workers that got to go report into, Warwick factory back in England or whatever. Morning shift, well, you got to eat something before morning shift, lunch shift in the middle, and do your evening shift, and then before you sleep. So I think it's like sort of re-breaking, like our productivity cycles aren't industrial revolution era productivity cycles. That's actually, a lot of us are very just mentally focused, right? So it's like gear our regimens towards that kind of productivity.
Yeah.
But now I think Tuesdays often are very clear for me. Not a lot of distractions around consumption. It is also like a really interesting data where your brain actually apparently seems to prefer ketone bodies as its energy source as opposed to glucose. So it's like interesting like metabolic benefits, where it's like there's interesting data that your mitochondria burning on ketones is 28% more efficient than burning glucose. So there's like interesting effects with like mental clarity. I'm just remembering like anecdotes from like Greek times where before you could go to the Plato's Academy, they would tell you to fast so you could come back smarter.
Wow.
And there's like anecdotes in Japanese or American POWs in Japanese camps where they were basically in starvation mode, but they were having like apparently like very crazy mental feats where they could like recall books from memory. Or like be able to like learn Norwegian in like a week or something.
That's
so like
amazing.
so it's like this very interesting like anecdotal data where your brain in a fasted state or on ketosis are doing sort of these crazy feats. So it's like seeing those anecdotal stories and then like looking at emerging science with brain metabolism of ketones. It's pretty interesting for like a productivity perspective.
And how did you get into all of this stuff?
I mean, I think with like a lot of our listeners, and also I think similar to you, I think initially just intellectually curious and wanted to be the best version of myself. Obviously, you're probably like fairly type A to like run a company, do all these different things, right? Like you want to be the best Ranidu that you can be.
You could be,
and like see how you can like impact the world. And I think, I guess a part of me is like, okay, one like meta way to do that is to like just improve your own baseline. Right. If you can learn a little bit faster, have a little bit more stamina, a little bit more everything, then assuming that you're pointing in the right direction, you eke out more and more things. Yeah.
That's a great way of thinking about it. So self-improvement is part of your kind of contribution to society, right?
Yeah, and if you can leverage that out broader, then if everyone can be a little bit more better, then you're increasing like worldwide productivity in a way, which I think is a really noble mission for like biohacking to like look at, especially where I think a lot of people are disillusioned with like our healthcare system today, where like it seems like it's kind of in a weird system where most expensive interventions, worse outcomes, and people aren't very happy with like going to the doctor once a year and getting like like a snapshot of data. We have so much technology to be tracking all this stuff like consistently.
Yeah.
Why aren't we like taking advantage of it?
Yeah.
Anyways, before we like dive into all of that,
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave you with the last word here. Like, what can we be looking forward to with Whale or any other things that you're working on?
So we're working on stories, like I said. So the first thing we're working on is the rewriting the recording flow and like making it better for creators.
Interesting.
Right? Making it more fun is important, because I think for some creators it's still a little bit of work. There's this kind of interesting dynamic where, hey, my peers are on here and I really need to sound smart and also like be presentable, right? So all of those things play in. There's a little added pressure versus posting a snap or like just like you don't think about it as much. So I think some people are more comfortable than others. So I'm actually pretty interested in hearing about what you think, because you said feels more casual.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what we want to make it for the creator side, right? Like
I think I have thicker skin than usual. I just know that like, hey, this is my face.
Mm-hmm.
I can maybe be 10% more attractive or 10% limits, like whatever. At a certain point, it's like, this is kind of your face.
Right.
Just get over it.
Let's just put it out there. Right. So I think I like that. And a lot of people feel that way, but there's also some people who want to do
the
video.
Instagram filter.
Right. A little bit more, little kind of give them the tools to add more to the video than just like their face. And so that we're working on that to make it better for creators. Also, there's been some upload issues. Hopefully you didn't experience
not
that.
Not too many issues.
Very small percentage, like less than 1% of people have experienced that. So, but we still want to be at 100%, right?
Absolutely.
So we're going to fix that.
Yeah.
And then stories is coming. So curated stories, you'll see a lot more influencers from different kind of verticals. We want to figure out more discovery on the platform. So having, for example, a panel. So like panel on biohacking, you would be able to invite your other friends or people who are influential in the area, and then people could ask the panel questions.
That's cool.
So something like that. But yeah, so more on the discovery, being easier for you to find and play videos, right? That's the main thing.
Right.
And then we also want to work on making it easy to ask questions. So make that more obvious and visible.
Right.
For people to be able to quickly jump in and ask a question. So those are the main things. So those are all fall within the three things.
Buckets, yeah.
The buckets of watching videos and getting interesting content out there, and then asking a question, making it really easy, and then posting a response. So making those three things.
Awesome. Yeah, really, I think we're all looking forward to those updates. And
if
you have questions, right, like literally either email us per usual or just find us on Whale, right? Yeah. Like you can, like I know Ranidu is very active. I'm active on Whale, so feel free to ask me questions, and happy to answer any biohacking questions.
Yeah, me too. And this is actually just before the last word. Other than biohacking, are there things that you're interested in answering on Whale? And
I mean, I think I'm happy to talk about anything, but I think what's I perhaps have most, I guess, credibility in is biohacking. Perhaps general entrepreneurship. I guess sort of as hobbies. I really like real estate. So I don't know. I mean, I think I think a lot of people are just like
faceted,
right?
Yeah,
I think for all of us, I don't think it's obvious that you were like a million record selling performing artist. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. And so I want to try to figure out a way to surface things like that because people tend to put forward their most like, I'm a professional, whatever, X, right?
Yeah.
And people shouldn't feel the need to put themselves in a box.
Right.
So I want to try to figure out ways to expose,
that's
people are
a very important problem to solve. I think people just, I think everyone else has very little mind share of other people, right? Yeah. Like you are this to me.
Yes.
And
exactly.
All right, like you just build someone around X.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we all know once you get to know people that people are complex.
Complex people, and they like talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I was talking to Holly, who started Kabam. She's been given advice on Whale.
Like a $1 billion game company.
Yeah, $1 billion gaming company. Interesting person. And she was like, "Oh, I would like to talk about Chinese immersion for kids because
but people are just asking her gaming questions, right?
Gaming and entrepreneurship questions, and women in tech. Like, so that's an interesting problem, I think, for us to solve as well. So you'll definitely, I'm thinking about it a lot, and I want to solve that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time and joining.
Thanks
for
having me.
Really fun conversation.
Yeah.
Hey, peace.